All right, we are back for part 2. So we were looking at the 5th postulate about how atoms chemically combine in fixed ratios to form compounds. We're going to look at the different types of chemical bonds that are going to form in compounds. So compounds are formed in 2 ways. It's either going to be ionic or it's going to be covalent. And we're going to take a look at what that actually means. Because if you're like me, when you first hear that word, you're like, oh, that sounds great, but I don't know what in the world that's supposed to mean. So when it comes to ionic bonds, that is when and I'm just going to make this part bold so that you keep that in mind. So when a metal atom donates an outer electron, you can do more than one, to a, non-metal atom who receives okay, so you have one who gives, the other one that receives, and then what happens is then the metal becomes positive and the non-metal is negative. Now what I've done is, I know I'm just briefly mentioning this, I have a video here that I'm going to be including in the lesson that you can take a look at, and this is going to explain ionic and covalent bonding a little bit more, and hopefully you actually have already watched it before you're watching this one, so that way you understand a little bit more what ionic bonds are as well as what covalent bonds are. But just keep in mind that when it comes to the periodic table of the elements, you know that the atoms that are metals, the elements that are metals, those are going, like for an ionic bond, that's basically going to be where you have a bond between an element on the periodic table of elements that is a metal mixed with an element on the periodic table of elements that is a non-metal. So that's really what you're looking at, a metal and a non-metal, and they have bonded together. And then when they are done, the metal is now positive, it has a positive charge, and the non-metal has a negative charge. So just keep that in mind about how metal becomes positive or has a positive charge, and then the non-metal ends up with a negative charge. So that's something here, like when you've got your sodium chloride, you're looking at how it ends up having it where the sodium, it is giving an atom to the chloride, and then what ends up happening is now we've got the metal or sodium that is a positive, or sorry, that has a positive charge now, and then we've got our chloride that has a negative charge once they have done the ionic bond. Whereas with a covalent bond, that's simply when you have two or more electrons that are shared between, and this is where it changes, two non-metals. So now you're looking at elements on the periodic table of elements that are non-metals. And so even in this video here, it will have it where it explains which ones are the non-metals, which ones are the metals. You did learn that before in the last lesson about the periodic table of the elements. And so you can take a look down here and you see we've got our hydrogen here, and it has it where it has a single bond. Actually, just a heads up here, we've got a single bond here, whereas and with the oxygen we have a double bond there. But taking a look at, let's say, water, so hydrogen and oxygen are both non-metals, and when they form a covalent bond, then what happened is they just simply have, or now they're sharing electrons. And then same here, we have it where they are splitting their, not splitting, they're sharing their electrons between the carbon and the hydrogen molecules. I'm hoping that makes somewhat sense. You can please let me know if after watching the video and listening to the video, or after watching this video and listening to this and filling in your notes, if it's still not making sense, please let me know. I'll do the best I can to explain it more to you. All right, so now when atoms separate from each other and recombine into different combinations, we say that a chemical reaction has occurred. And what happens, so let's say in the above chemical reaction, the water, oh, I think I might have missed something. Oh yeah, so water here It has it where if it has decomposed or broken up and recombined into smaller molecules, then that means the water has undergone a decomposition in the example above. So you're actually going to take a look at that kind of example with this, how they've taken have they taken copper chloride solution and they've had it so that they have, what is it called? They've done something. They were able to decompose it and have it where they were able to separate the elements within that compound. Okay, so and the last one here that I want you to take a look at for chemical reactions, 2 important events that happen in all chemical reactions is that bonds must be broken, and the other thing that must happen is new bonds must be formed. I like the idea of, was it out with the old and in with the new, that type of idea. That's really what's happening. You've got bonds that are being broken and you're creating new bonds in a chemical reaction. All right, this is actually as far as I'm going to ask you to go, because I feel like I don't have the materials, I don't have the lab to be able to do the experiments with you that would help you understand this better. And I'm so sorry for that. I wish that I had the lab to be able to show you just all the different experiments you could do around this. I'm hoping that this video will help a little bit give an idea as far as chemical reactions and the decomposition of material or compounds, being able to separate some of the elements within a compound. I'm hoping that that helps make a little bit more sense, but you're only having to go up to so I'm on page 23. So keeping in mind yours might be a little bit different, but the last thing that you should have is this part about chemical reactions. This is the last bit. As soon as you start imagining the decomposition of water at the scale of molecules, that part is as far as you need to go. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do any more. So hopefully that makes at least mostly sense. Please let me know if it doesn't. And yeah, congratulations, you are done. So you can send me your unit when you're done. I know there's a lot more pages in this unit, but this is all I'm asking you to do. And your test is going to be on Wednesday. All right. Have a great rest of the day.